5:21 local time. The forward gun mount on the U.S. Navy destroyer gives off a low mechanical hum as it turns 5 degrees to starboard. Slow, controlled, precise. Steel shifts into place. On the forecastle, a boatswain's mate stops mid-step. Up on the bridge, nobody raises their voice. Condition 3. Key stations manned and ready. Out on open water, visibility is clear. The sea is calm. There is nowhere to disappear and nothing to hide behind. Then the radar picture changes. A surface contact flashes bright on the scope. Bearing 243, range 8 nautical miles, closing fast. Speed, 26 knots. Too fast, too direct, too purposeful to be normal traffic. The contact is not drifting, it is cutting straight in. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tracking picture sharpens as the system resolves the silhouette. Hull length, superstructure. A profile that does not match a commercial vessel. Its projected course crosses the destroyer's path with almost mathematical precision. CPA, closest point of approach, updates then updates again. 7 miles, 6. The number keeps falling without drama. Contact accelerating, the watch officer says evenly. The bridge stays quiet. The ship holds course and speed. That is the doctrine. You do not flinch first. You let the geometry speak. Long-range optics swing over and lock in. The image clears. Gray paint, low freeboard, forward deck crowded with fittings. No visible flag from this angle. No sign of a course correction. Between the two ships, the water is empty, a narrowing strip of blue. The first bridge-to-bridge call goes out on the international frequency. Short, professional, no response. 5 nautical miles. Electronic support measures come alive. Passive at first. Listening. The log begins to fill. Timestamps, bearings, emissions, everything is captured, everything is preserved. On the bridge, the captain watches the numbers, not the horizon. Intent is measured in vectors, not words. Second hail. The message goes out again. Same wording, same tone, same result. Silence. At 4 miles, the other ship's wake lengthens. Speed rises again. 30 knots now, pressing the limits for a steel hull. In calm seas, the line on the display grows even tighter. This is not shadowing. This is an intercept. Below decks, doors are secured with muted thuds. Helm orders remain calm. The destroyer does not turn away. A small course change now would write the wrong story into the log. CPA under 3 miles. CIC reports. On the forward deck, the 5-inch mount finishes its movement and stops. Enough to be noticed, not enough to be provocative. A message without language. Anyone watching through binoculars can read the posture clearly. Ready, not aggressive. 3 miles. The contact's radar flickers on briefly. Surface search, low power, then another sweep. Not a weapons-grade lock, not yet. But it is active. It is deliberate. The electronic warfare officer marks it and saves the waveform. Another entry in the record. Unidentified surface contact is painting us, CIC says. The captain nods once. Maintain course. Outside, the distance closes with the same slow certainty as a rising tide. The sea remains calm, indifferent to all of it. From the bridge wing, sailors can now see movement on the other ship's deck. Figures near the bow, helmets catching sunlight. No signals, no gestures, just speed and steel. 2 miles. Time to CPA drops below 6 minutes. On the destroyer's flight deck, movement begins. Green shirts work with practiced efficiency. Tie-downs are checked. The helicopter crew straps in. The aircraft is not there for an attack. It does not need to be. Its presence is the message. The contact holds its line. At 1.5 miles, the geometry turns unforgiving. Any more closure on this vector will force a decision. Port or starboard, slow down or gamble on steel meeting steel. The bridge goes still. Every display is telling the same story. There is no confusion here, just numbers closing in. 1 mile, CIC calls. The captain's voice does not change. Log everything. The destroyer keeps its bow steady, wake straight as a ruler. The other ship now fills the optics frame, close enough to make out the angle of the bridge windows, the churn at the bow. Still no reply on the radio. Still no change in heading. Seconds stretch. This is where incidents happen, or are prevented. This is where intent reveals itself without anyone saying a word. The range keeps falling. Then, just before the geometry becomes irreversible, the picture wavers. A tiny shift in bearing, barely a degree. Enough to register, enough to matter. The log catches it. The ship holds, the sea holds. And the outcome hangs on what happens next. 5:24 local time. The bearing change is small, 2 degrees, then 3. But on the bridge, it lands like a sentence finally spoken aloud. The contact has not broken off. It has not slowed. It is adjusting to keep the pressure on. Inside CIC, the track redraws. The projected CPA widens for a second, then tightens again as the other ship compensates. Someone on the far bridge is working the helm with intent, matching vectors and staying inside the destroyer's maneuvering space. Contact adjusting to hold intercept, CIC reports. The destroyer answers with stillness. Same speed, same course, doctrine over impulse. If you move first, you spend the rest of the day explaining why. If you hold, the other side writes the explanation for you. Another radar sweep slides across the hull, logged, time-stamped, tagged again as surface search. Still not a weapons lock, but now the pattern is undeniable. Active, controlled, repeated. This is not idle curiosity, it is measurement. The captain leans closer to the display. Helm steady as she goes. A third hail goes out. Same standard wording, same neutral tone. Nothing theatrical, nothing inflammatory. Again, silence. At this range, under a mile, the sea offers no margin. Hydrodynamics begin to matter. Wakes interact. Pressure builds between hulls. A sudden course change by either ship could shove dangerous forces across both bows. That is how collisions happen. That is how headlines are made. On the forecastle, sailors brace against the rail, eyes fixed ahead. The other ship's hull is now unmistakable. Gray on gray. No visible effort to signal, its bow wave is sharp, white water boiling, as speed stays above 28 knots. Inside CIC, the tactical picture tightens further. CPA 900 yards and closing. The number sits there like weight. The destroyer's systems remain disciplined. No sirens, no panic, just readiness. The gun mount stays trained slightly off axis. The electronic warfare suite listens without answering. Cameras roll non-stop. Every frame is potential evidence. This is the point where professionalism matters most. The opposing ship slides closer along the destroyer's starboard side. Nearly parallel now, but slightly ahead. A classic pressure angle. Close enough to be felt, not quite close enough to touch. Parallel course established, CIC says. The captain lets out one slow breath. Maintain. From the bridge wing, engine noise carries across the gap. Officers can see crew on the far deck, faces turned toward them, hands on rails. No visible distress, no obvious weapons manned, just proximity. On the destroyer's flight deck, helicopter blades begin to turn. Not fast, not dramatic, just visible. A reminder that the ship has options. The other vessel answers by holding speed. At this distance, every small action is amplified. A degree of rudder, 100 revolutions per minute. Everything shows. The log grows line by line. Contact maintaining parallel intercept. Active radar emissions detected. No response to repeated hails. Then the captain speaks again. Prepare the helo. No urgency in the voice. No edge. Just procedure. The next rung on the ladder. The destroyer does not maneuver to create space. That would surrender the geometry. Instead, it holds course and keeps documenting. The Navy's answer to pressure has always been the same. Clarity. Another radar sweep hits, stronger this time. Still not fire control, still below the threshold, but closer. EW concurs, still search mode. That distinction matters. It means there is still room to de-escalate, still a path that does not end badly. But the window is narrowing. The other ship drifts a little closer. The gap drops below 600 yards. The water between the hulls moves differently now, wakes colliding, currents interfering. You can feel it through the deck plates. This is where people later blame the sea. The destroyer's helm stays fixed. The course line remains true. Its message is clear. We are not the variable. Then comes another adjustment, unmistakable this time. The other ship edges inward, bow creeping toward the destroyer's forward quarter. That answers the last open question. This is not a mistake. This is a test. The captain nods once. Launch the helo. And the encounter enters its next phase. 5:31 local time. The helicopter lifts cleanly off the deck, nose slightly down, rotors biting into calm air. No rush, no spectacle, just execution. From the bridge, the aircraft moves forward and settles into a low orbit over the water between the two ships. This is not escalation. This is clarification. In CIC, a second tactical picture blossoms as air and surface tracks merge. The helicopter's sensors feed live imagery back to the destroyer, thermal, optical, stabilized. Every frame is time-coded, geo-referenced, archived. Evidence. The opposing vessel now appears in full detail on screen. Gray hull, sharp bow, crew on the forward deck. No flag, no maneuvering signals, speed steady, heading unchanged. Aircraft on station, the air boss reports. The destroyer remains steady, 30 knots of steel and discipline. The helicopter drops to 200 feet above the waterline, pacing the other ship and holding just off its bow. Close enough to be unmistakable, far enough to remain professional. Heads tilt upward on the opposing bridge. Binoculars come up. Movement ripples across the deck. It is the first visible reaction since contact. The helicopter holds its orbit. Inside the cockpit, the crew runs the checklist by habit. Cameras hot, communications open, laser designator armed, not a weapon, not a threat, a signal. The green beam snaps on, cutting a thin line through the space between aircraft and steel, landing squarely on the opposing bridge windows. Not blinding, not harmful, impossible to ignore. At the same moment, the broadcast goes out on maritime frequency. Calm, flat, professional. Unidentified naval vessel. This is a United States Navy aircraft. You are operating in an unsafe manner. Alter course immediately. The message is repeated in Mandarin. Silence comes back, but the effect is immediate. On the far deck, crew members step away from the rail. One points up, another moves aft toward the superstructure. The ship holds speed, but its posture changes. The certainty is gone. Laser on target, the helo crew confirms. Back on the destroyer, the captain watches the live feed without comment. This is the line, crossed without weapons, enforced without shouting. The other ship's radar sweeps again, briefly touching the helicopter. Logged, saved. Still not fire control, still restrained, though only just. Opposing vessel painting aircraft, CIC reports. The helicopter widens its orbit slightly, a professional courtesy. No need to crowd. The message has been delivered. Now comes the choice. The water churns between the hulls as wakes collide. At this distance, even small changes matter. The destroyer does not adjust. The helicopter holds altitude. Only one variable remains, the other ship. Seconds pass. Then the picture changes. Contact speed reducing, CIC calls. 28 knots becomes 24, then 22. The bow wave shortens. The hard cut of water softens. The ship begins a shallow drift outward. 1 degree, then 2. Enough to open the geometry. The helicopter keeps the beam steady and the orbit smooth. No triumph, no pursuit. Pressure without humiliation. Another radio call goes out. Same wording, same tone. This time, a brief answer crackles back. Short, clipped, indistinct. An acknowledgement without admission. The opposing ship continues shedding speed. 19 knots, 18. The gap widens to 800 yards, then 1,000. On the destroyer's bridge, the risk curve begins to flatten. Nobody relaxes. The event is not over until the math says it is over. The helicopter completes one more circuit. Cameras still rolling, lasers still visible, every second recorded. Contact altering course to starboard, CPA increasing. That is the moment. Not retreat, not surrender, compliance. The helicopter climbs to 500 feet and the laser goes dark. Pressure eases. The aircraft shifts from deterrence to observation, sliding aft to keep the ship in frame without crowding it. On the opposing deck, sailors lower their arms. Movement returns to normal. The vessel settles onto a non-intercept vector. The destroyer holds course. No horn, no warning shot, no announcement. Just more water opening between the hulls. At 5:40, the helicopter turns back toward the destroyer, maintaining visual until the distance grows beyond 2 nautical miles. Only then does the bridge mark the phase complete. Non-lethal measure effective, the air boss reports. The captain nods once. Recover the helo. As the aircraft settles back onto the deck and the rotors begin to slow, the sea returns to its earlier calm. But the log now holds something more permanent than wake patterns. It holds proof. And with that proof secured, the encounter moves toward its final reckoning. 5:43 local time. The helicopter is secured on deck, blades folding back into stillness. Below, the destroyer's wake remains straight and unbroken. On radar, the opposing ship now sits off the starboard quarter, range opening slowly and deliberately. This is where discipline matters most. Inside CIC, the track history tells the whole story frame by frame. Speed reduction confirmed, heading drift verified. CPA now widening well beyond danger. The intercept geometry has collapsed, not because of force, but because one side chose not to cross the final line. Contact no longer maneuvering to intercept, CIC reports. The captain studies the display. He says nothing. There is nothing left to add. The decision has already been made, just not by him. The opposing ship steadies at 19 knots on a parallel course that no longer threatens collision. The water between the hulls widens back into open sea. Wakes disentangle. Hydrodynamic pressure fades. The immediate danger is gone, but the watch continues. Professionals do not confuse relief with completion. Maintain tracking, the captain says quietly. Long-range optics remain locked. Passive sensors stay awake. The destroyer does not ease its posture until distance makes intent irrelevant. That is the rule. That is how near misses do not become real incidents. On the bridge wing, sailors keep watching as the other ship drifts aft. Details are still visible. The bow angle, the looser movement of the crew, the lack of tension in their steps. The strain has drained out of the image. Inside CIC, the electronic warfare officer scrolls back through the emissions log. Every radar sweep, every frequency hop, every unanswered hail. The data is clean. The sequence is intact. Nothing missing. Recommend we hold until 5 miles, the watch officer says. The captain nods once. The destroyer continues straight ahead, indifferent to the ship falling behind. There is no need to create distance aggressively. Distance will take care of itself. At 3 nautical miles, the opposing vessel makes one final, unmistakable change. Rudder over, heading away from the destroyer's track. Not subtle, not ambiguous, a clear choice to disengage. Contact turning away, CIC confirms. The bridge remains quiet. No one marks the moment aloud. This is not victory, it is resolution. The ship's systems stay active, cameras keep recording, the log continues to grow, even compliance gets documented. At 5 miles, the opposing vessel's radar emissions drop to intermittent passive only, no further sweeps. The posture has fully shifted from pressure to observation. Only then does the captain look out at the horizon. Secure from immediate posture, maintain watch, condition 3 remains set. The destroyer does not lower readiness just because the tension has passed. Readiness is not a reaction, it is the baseline. Below decks, sailors ease back toward routine without fanfare. Doors stay secured. Helm orders remain calm. The destroyer continues on as if nothing unusual happened. Because that is the point. At sea, the most dangerous moments are often the quiet ones. The moments when people begin making assumptions. The Navy trains specifically to deny those assumptions room to grow. At 7 miles, the opposing ship fades from visual range. On radar, the track stretches thinner, then settles into background traffic. Just another contact among many. No longer special, no longer decisive. Recommend we close the event? CIC asks. The captain studies the display one last time. Event remains open until horizon. The log will close when doubt is gone, not before. Minutes pass. The sea returns fully to calm. Sunlight flashes off steel and water. From the outside, nothing suggests that 2 warships were minutes from collision less than half an hour earlier. But inside the destroyer, every second now exists in data. At 12 nautical miles, the opposing vessel's track merges back into ordinary traffic patterns. No meaningful maneuvering, no notable emissions, no pressure. Event complete, CIC confirms. The captain nods. Close the log. That is the decision. The moment has passed. No shot was fired. What remains is the record, a precise account of intent, restraint, and choice, written not in statements or headlines, but in headings, speeds, and timestamps. Out here, that is what matters, because the difference between confrontation and catastrophe is not firepower, it is command. 6:15 local time. The sea looks exactly as it did an hour earlier, flat, blue, uninterrupted. But inside the destroyer, something permanent has been added. In CIC, the event log is finalized line by line. Bearings, speeds, emissions, course changes, audio from bridge-to-bridge calls, high-resolution imagery from the helicopter, laser timestamps, radar waveforms, every piece aligned into one continuous timeline. This is how encounters end in the U.S. Navy. Not with statements, with evidence. The opposing ship made a calculation when it chose to close fast and hold pressure. It assumed proximity would create leverage. That assumption was wrong. Proximity creates clarity, and clarity creates a record. The destroyer never altered course, never raised its voice, never moved beyond a posture defined by doctrine. That restraint was not passive. It was deliberate, procedural, and fully documented. And that is where the error becomes obvious. At sea, pressure only works if it forces a reaction. It did not work here. The destroyer held the line and let the geometry tell the story. When the helicopter lifted, it did not intensify the encounter. It illuminated it. The moment the laser touched the far bridge, ambiguity ended. From that point on, every decision belonged to the other ship. Reduce speed or risk collision. Alter course or own the consequences. Disengage or be recorded refusing to. There was no winning outcome left in that exchange. The destroyer's crew understood that. The captain understood that. Eventually, the other bridge understood it too. By the time the distance widened beyond 5 nautical miles, the outcome was already settled. Not tactically, but analytically. The opposing ship had not forced a retreat. It had created a file. Inside secure spaces, analysts begin their work. Radar signatures are clean, emissions are consistent, maneuvering patterns are unmistakable. What may have looked like intimidation on the surface resolves, under scrutiny, into intent. And once intent is documented, leverage disappears. This part rarely makes headlines. No collision, no warning shots, no dramatic turn at the last second. But for professionals, this is decisive. Every close approach reveals something about training, command climate, judgment, thresholds. Here, the lesson is simple. You do not crowd a U.S. Navy destroyer and remain invisible. The ship continues its transit without ceremony. Helm steady, speed unchanged. The horizon ahead remains the mission. The encounter slips into the past, but the data does not. For the crew, it becomes another entry in experience. Not extraordinary, not routine, just exact. Watches rotate, systems hum, the ocean offers no commentary. But somewhere else, that log will be read, replayed frame by frame. The early acceleration, the unanswered hails, the narrowing CPA, the moment of laser contact, the speed reduction, the turnaway. No interpretation is required. The sequence speaks for itself. That is why this was such a major mistake. Not because it nearly turned violent, but because it never had to. The opposing ship revealed its posture without gaining anything in return. No ground, no concession, no narrative advantage, only exposure. At sea, the strongest response is not always force. Sometimes it is patience, backed by sensors and discipline. The destroyer never tried to dominate the moment. It simply refused to give it away. By holding course, the ship held authority. By documenting everything, it held the final word. The ocean closes behind both wakes. The distance grows. The encounter ends without applause, without anything visible to the naked eye once it is over. But the balance has shifted. Because the next time ships meet at close range and the margins shrink again, this record will still exist. Quiet, complete, impossible to argue with. And out here, where steel and water settle questions faster than politics ever can, that kind of record lasts longer than any display of power. The destroyer sails on, mission unchanged, course held, mistake recorded.